Kigerr, and today we're doing a comparison of the special battle badges. Right in front of you, we have all the battle badges up to now, up to Gore, and we're going to compare slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4, slot 5, and slot 6. Let's get into it. Slot 1, I can immediately throw away the Magneto one and Crow one because all they give us is attack, and I don't care about just flat attack. Thanos, no matter what I say in this video, all 1 through 6 Thanos are a great fallback. You can ignore everything I say right here and have Thanos 1 through 6 and do okay. If you want to do better than okay, let's get on with it. Uh, Strange, I'm going to tell you, Strange, all 1 through 6 requires max damage rate. So only two characters can really get away with that. That'd be Black Widow or Doctor Strange. You can check these out as a Doctor Strange or Scarlet Witch, and I'll point out one or two that you might look at, but for everyone else, just ignore the Stranges. Crow, one we talked about, kill that. Gore 1, up to 12% additional damage relative to their HP lost. It doesn't tell you. I've done a lot of testing, and it seems to be in the 35-30% range where it stops calculating the damage. So once your target gets to about 30%, then you're dealing max Gore damage. Now let's go on to number 2. Plot 2, if we look across, Magneto 2 is okay. Crit damage does not go past the cap. Thanos 2 is the best for most characters because of the cooldown. If we look at Strange 2 and Crow 2, ignore it. They both do about the same with different mechanics of how to accomplish it, but not worth the hassle. Uh, Gord 2 is my favorite for Captain America, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, and Black Widow because if they would die, they don't die. So guaranteeing that under 25% HP is guaranteed, and 30% skill damage is as good as the top tier specializations in the game. Onto slot 3. So onto slot 3, Magneto has the skill damage percent, which is something I'm looking for, but we have a lot of really good options at 3. Thanos is always going to be a good fallback, like I said. Obviously, you don't get defense, you get the cooldown. Uh, Strange 3 we ignore because it's just extra max damage rate if you crit. If you can guarantee crit, that's kind of cool. You can get some cool numbers. Uh, but here we get into Crow 3 and Gore 3, which is the real conversation going across the community right now. Crow 3 is going to be the best for a lot of people. 6% damage reduction. If you look at things like Widow's specialization, it's 18%, but only for melee. If you look at some other characters, it's the same thing, but for range damage decrease. This is 6% for everything. And the only qualification here is that you're actually fighting your opponent, which you're doing. Gore 3 is the most interesting one on this entire list. If it worked properly, it would be my go-to, but because it has to, you have to press the dodge skill and then immediately after hit a what the game considers an attack type skill. A lot of abilities would be attacks. Let's take Spider-Man Web Swing for example. It hits them, right? But you going up into the air is considered not an attack. It's very interesting what they consider attack and not attack. Even if they are attacks, the game is currently not considering them attack. It's been reported, and if that gets fixed, that would be our choice. But right now, Crow 3 is the go-to. On to slot 4, we have Magneto 4, which gives us defense, don't care about because of how defense pierce works. Then we have Thanos, as I said, always a good fallback. Um, Decrease cooldown by 20%, decrease cooldown. Hey, guess what? Yet again, Strange and Crow are the same thing, but with different mechanics and how to get it. Defeat an enemy or max damage hit. I don't care about them reducing cooldown by 20% or 30%, are terrible because you would rather have Thanos, which gives you cooldown reduction. So you have the option of get max cooldown or reduce what's left. If you have 3 seconds left on your skill, you would rather that be 1.8 from max cooldown versus reduce it by 30%, which makes it 2.3, 2.4, something like that. It's nowhere near the same, and you have to jump through hoops to get it. Now we get to talk about my favorite badge on this list, Gore 4. Decrease remaining cooldown by 1.5% upon attacking an enemy. So things like if you have a multi-damage skill, like Widow Quick Step, Spider-Man Web Shooter, things like that, it only applies once. It's per skill with a 1 second cooldown. So you can do some really cool things, such as when your cooldown's high enough, you can Black Widow, exploit weakness, dash through them, use whatever freaking skill you want. Hey, guess what? Exploit weakness is back up, dash through them again. And each of these skills that you're clicking gives them all cooldown. So this is really, really great as long as your stamina can afford it. Now let's get into number 5. At number 5, we have Magneto. Dodge rate, don't care about that. I'm going to skip Thanos and come back to him because I have something to say about that. Jump over, Strange, don't care about that. Crow, recover 4% of max HP every second for 5 seconds, so 20% HP. Upon defeating an enemy with 25-second cooldown. Healing is reduced in PvP. This can be cool in Omega War, or if you're fighting a magic with a summon or someone with a Hulk, it can give you some healing, but all healing in PvP is reduced by 30%, so that ends up being a whole lot less. You're not really going to notice it at all. Then we talk about Gore 5, increase enemy cooldown by 20% for 7 seconds when you land a skill 4 times. And Dimension Duel or Omega War, you're probably dead in 4 hits, so that doesn't do anything. Now we go back to Thanos 5, which is my go-to. Obviously, you want to roll cooldown for the 5th roll, but for what's really cool about these special badges is you can focus one of these stats. And if you look at everything 1 through 4 up at the top, they all have the same options across the board. Thanos is the weird one out on 5 and 6. So you can focus melee damage decrease. So if you have something like a 3 or 4 roll melee damage decrease, it is super hard to get melee damage decrease in the game. Only real options are a spec that does it specifically. Uh, what is it? Companion, such as War Machine, or a special card such as one of the magic cards. So Thanos 5 is by far the best 5 slot. On to the 6. On to slot 6, I was talking with some other people, one of our CCC's, Eros Trinidad, shout out buddy, about 6, and this is the one that we went kind of back and forth on. So Magneto 6, we both think is one of the best options. So immediately recover 27% of stamina when stamina is 35% or lower. So if you're rushing out of stamina with something like magic or something like that, Iron Man, you can keep spamming your buttons. This is my go-to number 6, and the only other one that's worth talking about here is Thanos 6. Because while Thanos 5 let you get melee damage decrease, this lets you get range damage decrease. I prefer focusing 1 because you want to pick and choose your playstyle. Uh, so I prefer going for Thanos 5 and Magneto 6, skipping over Thanos 6. Now, if you want to do more of a in-between playstyle, like you're fine doing melee, also good at range, you can do Thanos 5 and 6, obviously getting the cooldown. Then Strange and Crow 6, ignore them, they don't do shit. And Gore 6, using a skill decreases the enemy target stamina by 4.5%. Doesn't matter. Now let's talk about. Alright, guys, that was my breakdown of all the special badges. If you want to ask me, hey Kigerr, what's the best? I think for most characters, it's going to be Gore 1, Gore 2, Crow 3. It becomes Gore 3 if the healing works properly and on any type of skill. Then Gore 4, Thanos 5, and Magneto 6. You can find this right here in front of you, down below on my Discord under infographics.